we might be going on to 3 decades. It's been that long. Clifford, are you there?
I am.
Folks, this is Clifford Shack, his first visit, I hope of many. All right, I went through your list. We start with this. Shabtai Tzvi was a planned hoax designed to demoralize Jews. And remember, Rabbi Antelman and I were really, really close for a long time, and he tried to tell me, I think, about the same thing. All right, away you go.
Well, you really need to hear more of the story to get in there. But let me just say that if you look really carefully at Shabbatai Tzvi and Nathan of Gaza, first of all, Nathan of Gaza, it clearly says that he was an Ashkenaz, or his father was an Ashkenaz. You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Well,
I know the names. And
he had ties to Ashkenaz. He had ties to Europe.
Okay.
He wasn't just a pigeon pop up in Gaza, completely unconnected to Europe. Also, Shabbatai Tzvi, he was known to know Yiddish and know German. He had some outbursts in German, and there's also allusions that he also had connections to, that he was an Ashkenaz somehow, and that he had connections there. Maybe it was through his father. I don't know if you were aware, but Shabbatai Tzvi, though he was, it seems to have been born in Smyrna, his father was from Patras on the Peloponnesian Peninsula. And
where's Patras?
Patras is on the northern Peloponnnesia in Greece.
Okay.
And his father was a poultry dealer, or he was a merchant that was involved with merchants from Britain. So they had dealings with Europe also.
Well, the fact that his messianic, in 1666, folks, June 18th, this would interest my listeners. He said, I'm the Messiah of the Jews. Half the Jews of the world bought into this in Europe. In fact,
they had their suitcases packed.
Yep, they sure did. They threw their clothing into the streets because they were going to be immediately shifted to the New Jerusalem. It was insanity going on.
But what you don't know at the time, and even until this day, is there's a quiet war going on. A war that is so silent, most people don't even know it exists. And we can go into it. We can get to the root of it, and you'll see a whole world of trouble opening up, Barry. And how I got to it was, I was always kind of bothered that as far as the Rothschild family, look how rich and powerful they are. I mean, they crank out every digital dollar.
Jacob Frank. The Rothschilds began in Frankfurt in the 18th century, along with Adam Weishaupt and Jacob Frank. Listen, Frankfurt was the conspiracy capital of the world, and that's where the Rothschilds rose.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Jacob Frank. We can maybe even use him as a little portal. See, Jacob Frank, he wasn't really a big fan of the Jewish people. And now when I say Jewish people, and we should talk about what is a Jewish person, but that's another story. But Jacob Frank was more Karaite than Pharisee, if you know what I'm talking about. Meaning a Karaite, for your listeners, from whoever, is a very old sect of Judean. Okay, let's get to the heart of the matter. I mean, Jewish is a relatively new term. 2,000 years ago, there were just Judeans, sects of Judeans. There were the Pharisees, there were the Sadducees, there were the Essenes, and a number of other minor sects. The Karaites came later. The Karaites came about 700 AD. But just hold off on that for a moment. Jacob Frank, now the Karaites, what was the difference between the Pharisees and basically everybody else, the Sadducees, because the Karaites actually are an extension of the Sadducees. And when I say Sadducee, that's a Greek way of saying Sadoki,
The
basically.
righteous ones. Okay, great.
But
Now, what are we
it's not
talking
so
about?
much. It's righteous, but what that is the Sadok was King Solomon's, was the high priest. It was the first high priest in Solomon's temple.
Okay.
Okay, and believe it or not, the guy wasn't even quote unquote Jewish.
What was he?
What was he? He was
Yeah.
actually he was a descendant of what's his name, the high priest.
You got me. I'm confused already.
No. First he was a descendant of the high
Uh,
priest of Jerusalem before David even got there. What was that
leave
guy's?
it be. I don't
I
know.
know.
When you
Okay.
start
I
talking,
understand.
so
I understand. I should be telling you, not fishing around for it. But basically, that's enough. Well, let's talk about David also. Just gonna skip
don't
David.
hop so quick. We're
I'm
already
sorry.
with
I'm
Jacob
sorry.
Frank in Frankfurt and the Rothschilds, and let's
We have a lot to talk about. Uh,
apparently yes.
David, I don't know how familiar you are with the Bible, but when Samuel came looking to anoint a new king because King Saul just did not work out, and he went to the house of Jesse. He went to all of Jesse's sons. They're all sitting in the room, just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for him. And he said, "No, not any of you guys. Don't you have another son?" And said, "Oh yeah, David. Yeah, he's out. He's out in the fields watching the sheep." Now the question was, why wasn't David in the room with all his other sons? And the answer may quite possibly be, and there's a whole school of thought, is that David was not Jesse's legitimate son. He was Jesse's bastard.
All right, and what's the significance of this?
Okay,
I don't hold it against him.
I understand.
He was good with a slingshot.
The significance is this:
Yeah.
that the priesthood was co-opted from the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, by Edomites.
All right. Edomites are obviously not Jewish.
Exactly.
No, I caught on to that. And once again, after all this time, they've, pretty well, melded into the I think there are brothers, aren't they, after 3,500 years of,
It's not. You think that, but here, let me
yeah,
bring it to today.
okay,
Every British king, when he's anointed, when he gets onto the throne, and they put the crown on his head, they at least for a couple hundred years, they've been singing a song called Sadok the Priest. Actually, I think it's from Handel. There's a relationship that I'm going to show you, if we have enough time.
no, all the time you want. What are you
That
going to show me?
I'm going to show you that that all the royalty, the Western European royalty, to begin with, and is a descendant of where the royalty comes, is from not David so much, but it was from Solomon, because Solomon's mother was also an Edomite, Bathsheba, and Zadok the priest got Solomon the throne. It didn't go to David's firstborn. It went to Bathsheba, son Solomon, and from Solomon, that's the line of David. That's the royal line, and it goes straight through. It goes straight through
Hold on a
right
second.
to the Queen of England.
Solomon is the son of David. David became king when, instead of Jews becoming slaves, he knocked off Goliath and saved them from slavery. I don't recognize what you're saying. It's certainly not the history I was taught.
No, but when it came to we're talking about the heir to the throne of David. It was up for grabs. It was up for grabs. If you remember, I'm not the biggest Bible scholar. I'm sure many people in the audience know it, but it was up for grabs. So one son tried to get the throne from him, and he got killed, and another general killed another son. It was like all the other kind of royalty shenanigans. But the bottom line is that this guy Tzadok, the first high priest, even before he was high priest, because Solomon built the temple, he made sure that this Edomite, David, who actually he married this Edomite because David was an Edomite because he was Jesse's bastard. We don't really know exactly who his father was, but that's another story. Anyway,
okay.
The main difference between all these back and forth as cowboys and Indians is that 2,000 years ago, the Pharisees, they came up with this idea that there's an oral Torah. That it's not just the written Torah, the Torah, what's written there. There's a whole bunch of things that were passed down from mouth to mouth to mouth to mouth. And then and people started to forget, started writing the Talmud. They created a whole nother thing, and they were considered heretics, the Pharisees.
What did they create?
The Talmud.
No, please. The Talmud was written in Babylon 350 years before.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is true. There was the Babylon Talmud was written. It began in the 560 before BC, and it was finished and was when they came back from
what
exile.
I'm saying is the oral Torah was something new. It was
the Jerusalem Talmud.
The oral Torah, they're both oral. The Babylonian and the Jerusalem were both considered oral Torahs. They were writing down oral things. Otherwise, why would you need a Talmud? You have the Torah. And that's what the Karaites was. Karaite, the root of the Karaite is the Kriv, the written. If it's not written, I don't want to hear about it. That's what those guys were. And also the movers and shakers, the Tzadukis, they were the wealthy people. They also did not give a hoot about the oral Torah. That there was a lot of friction there. Anyway, back to Jacob Frank. He was.
Yeah, no. What about Shabtai Tzvi? Okay, you know what? Whatever you say, you want to do it through Jacob Frank. He was the second Shabtai Tzvi, the second Messiah of the Jews.
What I'm saying was he didn't believe in the oral Torah also. Okay, that he was more in the lines of the Karaite. Now, what's very interesting. Okay, we're going to go to another. Now, I told you I was tracing the Rothschild line.
Oh,
it ends up. It was in Frankfurt, where some Moshe and Samuel, blah blah blah. It goes back 200 years and it just stops. But yet here they are. They seem to be at the pinnacle of power, and who the heck are they? It's just like it's just like how Stalin gets raised up, and nobody knows where he comes from. Hitler gets raised up, nobody knows. Even some of the good guys, they come up, and where did they come from?
Hold on a second.
What?
All right, I told you where they came from, and I told you what was going on in Frankfurt, and I told you about the Illuminati and Adam Weishaupt and Jacob Frank. This was all happening in the 18th century Frankfurt. It's not a question of where the Rothschilds came from. Where did all of this come from?
I'm going to tell you.
You are?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you. This is a news bulletin here. Okay. This came. We're going to go back to the fall of the Roman Empire.
We are?
Yeah, we're going to go back to the fall of the Roman Empire.
All right, that was in about 460 A.D.
Something like that, right? It's kind of chaotic, right? And what happens is that the Merovingians come, this line of kings come, and they kind of wane, and then the Carolingians come, and you get to Charlemagne. Okay? Now, Charlemagne was the
12th century. That's a mighty big jump here.
Well, because it's something that's it wasn't 12th century. Charlemagne was the 8th century. 8th into the 9th century.
Really? I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, that's still,
This is
300.
this is what happened.
Okay.
What happened was Charlemagne's grandfather. Well, we're not exactly certain how it played out, but his grandfather, his name was Charles Martel.
Really? He was a conqueror.
That's right. In fact, Martel means the hammer, which has some reminiscence of the Maccabees, but we'll get into that later. Okay? Now, then he had a son called Pepin the Short, but he wasn't short, it was whatever.
Right.
And then Pepin the Short had Charlemagne. Now, what happened was these guys, Charles Martel and his son, they stopped the Muslims from coming up from Spain or Spania, whatever it was called back in those days, and invading Europe.
France. Okay.
Well, it was called Gaul. Gaul was like pretty much everything. It was like Germany, France. It was all broken up later, but it was Roman Gaul. And these guys had a tough time, doing battle with them here, doing battle with them. They finally got to a town called Narbonne, which is in southwest France. Which is, if anyone is familiar with the Holy Grail law and the mystery surrounding the Holy Grail, all of that kind of takes place in southwest France in the Languedoc. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but in that area. Now, we'll talk about the Holy Grail and that kind of stuff a little bit later, if we have time. If we have time.
We have another half hour.
All right.
But our initial subject was Shabtai Tzvi was a planned hoax.
I understand, but we need some background information here.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So these guys finally had everything kind of conquered, but there was one city. It was a walled city called Narbonne. In the Roman times, it was called Narbo, Narbonensis, something like that. It was an ancient city. It was actually financed by Herod the Great's grandfather. I mean, it went back.
Herod the Great's grandfather.
Right.
Who would he be? Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
Anyway.
Right.
So here you have. So we have the Muslims in there, and Charles Martel just cannot lick this city. It's too fortified. He lays siege to it, maybe 6-7 years. He tried twice over the course of maybe 10 years going back. He can't get rid of this thing. What happened? It just so happens that there was a group of Jewish people in there. They're merchants. There's a Silk Road going from Spain all the way out to China.
All right, so you've got some salesmen inside the town.
You got some merchants. Right? You got some machers in there. Okay, the Muslims are very friendly to the Jews. Any which way, you have these people in there. So as the story goes, and it's right, is that Charles Martel made a deal with these guys. He says, "Listen, let open the gates up to us. Let us in. Please. Whatever you want, we'll give to you."
How could he make a deal if the gates were closed?
They made a deal.
They used their cell phones?
It could have been smoke signals, Barry. I don't know. Listen, we're talking about something a very long time ago. This is what history tells us. It's legend. If enough legends kind of piece together, it makes a little bit of sense. Sometimes that's all we have to go on as researchers. Anyway,
they allowed the Gaul to be saved from Muslims.
Let me tell you the deal that they made. They said, "Okay, we'll do it, but we want a Davidic prince. We want you to send us a Davidic prince." Apparently Charles Martel, that the whole Carolingian crowd, they had friendly relations with Baghdad at the time, which was just a brand new spanking city in those days.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It was Babylon. Baghdad is...
No.
There's a new Baghdad?
First of all, Babylon turned to the Persian... Wait a minute. Babylon turned to the Persian Empire way back. I mean, if you remember Purim, all right?
I've heard of it.
Achashverosh, Esther, Mordecai. Okay. At that point, those guys were already Persian. They had already conquered the Babylonians. All right. So, okay. So in the 8th century, I believe it was the 8th or 7th century, Baghdad they stuck a shovel in the ground, and they had a ceremony, and they built a little city there, and they moved the capital to Baghdad from, I'm not sure where it was.
From Syria.
Anyway,
Syria. All
all right. So these guys in Narbonne, they said, okay, we'll open the gates for you, and you could raise holy hell, but you got to give us a Davidic prince.
And what does that mean? Give us a Davidic
They
prince?
wanted Davidic prince to lead them, to be a teacher. They were lonely. I don't know the exact reason, but that was their request. And what he did was he shook hands on it. And he said, okay. And what happened? They murdered who they had to murder, the gatekeepers or whatever it is. They opened the gates, and guess what? The reason why Europe is not a Muslim continent is because of these guys. Because if they didn't do that, it wouldn't be the Muslims coming in and infiltrating Europe and raising a ruckus up there. It would be somebody else doing it, because it was a Muslim.
We were better off with Moors. Are you kidding?
Anyway,
oh gee.
What happened there was they stopped the Muslim advance into Europe at Narbonne, and they just forced them to recede into actually all the way back to Barcelona. Okay,
Barcelona.
And that's how. All the way back to Barcelona, and that was the beginning of the Christianization of Hispania.
What?
Yes.
No, they took it
Look it up.
92, and then the Holy Inquisition was. The Jews were thrown out.
1 minute. Let's take this one step at a time.
I think I am.
That was a very important time in history. But here we go. And what happened? In 768, a Davidic prince comes over from Baghdad. He was now. This is a little bit more of the story. What happened? First of all, what Davidic prince in his right mind is going to go to? Can I curse? No, you can't curse on the radio, right?
I've gotten away with it a few times.
What Davidic prince in Baghdad at the height of his glory is going to go to bumblefuck Languedoc in France and in former Roman Gaul? There's no.
I don't understand.
It's crazy to do such a thing.
But
anyway, that's what happened. What happened? They had an ambassador. His name was Isaac. They even know his name. Charlemagne had a Jewish ambassador named Yitzchak, Isaac, and he made the deal with the Caliph. Now, who was this guy? His name was, well, this is how history says what his name was, but history is a little bit bogus here. It's a schmear campaign, and we can get behind the schmear campaign, but I got to introduce it to you like I was introduced to it. His name was Makir of Narbonne. He was a Davidic prince, a Columbia professor. Actually, the first mention of this guy was in the 12th century. There was a scholar by the name of Avraham ibn Daud. That was a very interesting name. Ibn Daud.
He's Davidson.
Exactly, son of David, Ben David. That's the Arab
hold
way
on,
of
we
saying
have to take a short break.
All right.
And folks, if you thought the first guest was confusing, we're back in 3 minutes. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes, this is Clifford Shack, and if you're following this, you're a better person than me. All right, we'll see you in 3. Clifford, don't run away.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldAndSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Hi, folks. Boy, have you got yourself one heck of a terribly confused host, but I'm doing my best. Look, you can get all my books at lulu.com. You go to www.lulu.com. You'll see a search box right in my last name, Chamish, Chamish. The book I'd like you to get, initially anyways, was Shabtai Tzvi, Labor Zionism and the Holocaust. I don't know if it matters anymore. My website is barrychamish.com. Clifford, how do people get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? Why would they want to get a hold of me? They can Google.
No one's ever asked that before.
They can Google me. I'm not hiding.
What does Google mean?
Google Clifford Shack. You'll get to my blogs, and if you want to email me, you'll find my email.
There we go. You'll get to the blogs via Google. And by the way,
I watch all the comments. Not that there are a lot, but just Google me.
All right, at Clifford Shack. And just so you know, we had a common friend in Joel Bainerman as well. We actually go back, but we're going to take it your way. We're now with Lenny Davidson. What is all happening right now?
Okay, here, I regrouped. I took a cleansing breath. All
Okay.
right. Okay. This Columbia University professor, his name is Arthur Zuckerman, and
Okay.
he said that Makir of Narbonne, he was an exilarch. He was actually an exilarch in Baghdad, and he had married. He came to Narbonne in that area, and he married the daughter of Charles Martel, who was the grandfather of Charlemagne.
They had children, I assume.
They had children.
What did they
He
think?
was the father of William of Gelone, Gellone. Now, here's the interesting thing of William of Gelone.
Okay.
All of Western European royalty is not royal until they can prove that they're a descendant of William of Gelone. Not only that,
The Prince of Jews really intermarry, even if it was Chuck Martel's daughter. They had standards back then.
yes, I know, but I can get to that, but let's just keep it simple for a second here.
Yeah,
Now,
sure.
another group of people that have roots to William of Gelone are virtually all, if not all, of the United States presidents of of America.
And you're saying that this Irish guy who's president today, what's his name? Obama. You're saying,
Exactly.
all
Yes,
right.
he is. Would you like me to tell you how?
Sure, why not?
Okay. If you look at the history of the Rockefellers, there's a small contingent, a small group of people who have traced him to the Languedoc.
Which
What does it have to do? What does that in
What is the
Southwest France?
Oh,
In
gosh.
Southwest France, okay? Now, if you look at President Obama, I had on my blog, I show people, he's a little sketchy with his birth certificate and his background and all that. He's got
I
a
know
lot
he's got a
going
Jewish
on.
brother,
But
and
if
he's
you, I have an article on my blog, and I show you that his maternal grandmother is the illegitimate daughter of one of the Rockefellers. I think it's John D. Jr. John Davison, excuse me. The D stands for Davison, by the way. Ibn Dowd. Make no mistake about that.
By the way, folks, Google Obama Jewish brother, and you'll be surprised. He really does have a Jewish brother. What that means?
Okay, let's get back. So would you consider that an interesting fact? How all of Europe, European royalty goes to William of Gelone, and his father was a
I have a lot of trouble
Jewish
buying.
prince.
A lot of trouble buying it. Shabtai Tzvi was real. Well, he changed Judaism. He outlawed everything that was Jewish, and he turned it on his head and made immorality morality. I mean, that's stuff that actually happened until, of course,
He's trying to break. He broke the back of those that believed in the oral Torah. He demoralized them because it's the war. The people who only believe in the written Torah, the Sadducees, the Karaites, and the Pharisees, or now the rabbis, the rabbinics that believe in the oral Torah. There's a war going on. It's been going on for over 2,000 years.
How come I'm not a soldier in this
That's
war?
why the Rothschilds can fund Hitler and wipe out European Jewry, because they wiped out the people who believed in the oral Torah. They don't. The Rothschilds and the Warburgs are, I want to say, Karaites, but they're not Karaites because we didn't really get past the boogeyman that's the Makir of Narbonne.
Wait, I'm going to jump to a point. I've got to. I actually have great faith in my listeners. I want you to explain, and I think this is the right time, that the benefactors and the leaders of the state of Israel were not Jewish. Okay, that's something we can talk about.
Can we sink our teeth into that?
Sink away.
All right, let's sink our teeth into it. Well, the Rothschilds are a little sketchy. You gotta first of all, let me just tell the Marquis of Narbonne, the people who are related to the Marquis of Narbonne, which isn't he had like 10 different names. A name that's associated with him is the family Colonimus. It's a very famous family, and Colonimus. Now, if you look at the Rothschilds, one of the 5 Rothschild brothers, his name was Kalman. Anything with Colonimus is going to point to that. There was a now, but that's just only one thread. It's not enough to hang a Rothschild on. Okay. So we got to look a little bit. We got to look at
I didn't know we were trying to hang a Rothschild.
Well, you know what? People who are behind Stalin and Hitler and are responsible for killing like 300 million people, maybe you want to give them a lash. Can we get a lash? You know, of an effigy? Okay. So the Warburgs, who are in cahoots with them, you know, as far as the World Bank and all the money and all the wars, basically. They're easier to trace. They're descendants of Anselmo del Banco. We're going back to Venice. Just around the time of the Venetian ghetto. He was the primo, he was the Jewish representative to the powers that be in Venice. He was the most successful banker of the day in that area, and he was the big kahuna. Now his Hebrew name was Asher Meshulam.
All right.
Now Asher Meshulam, that name I looked all over where there's Asher Meshulam, and that ties to a family of a Colonimus family, Asher Meshulam of Lunel. And they are tied to Narbonne, because in Narbonne, when the Marquis got there, he wanted to legitimize himself, and he brought over actually a lot of Karaite rabbis, and actually at one point, for many years, the Karaites were the more intelligent crowd of the rabbis. If you look it up.
What happened to Levites and Kohanim and things I can relate to?
Now the interesting thing is that the Warburgs are Levites, so
okay,
we can get into that. But any which way, so these guys are tying into the Marquis of Narbonne. But there's really, if you look closely, and if you look at all the Holy Grail writings, this all came from this book that I told you about, Avraham ibn Dowd, who wrote this book from the 12th century, talking about the Marquis of Narbonne. But there's no character in the Marquis of Narbonne. He was covering up this particular person who happened to be, his name was Anan ben David.
All right, there's another Davidson in this story.
Well, they were looking for a Davidic prince, so don't be surprised by that. So what happened he was supposed to, according to the story, he was supposed to be there was an exarch who died, and he was supposed to take his place. But the guy didn't have any next of kin. I'm sorry, he didn't have any next of kin, so they went to 2 nephews. It was Anan and his brother. His brother was not as experienced, not as older, but they chose him over Anan.
Were they in the insurance business? I mean, who are these guys? Well, what were they doing?
These are exarchs. An exarch, a Babylonian exarch, is basically he's not the religious aspect of the Jewish community in the Persian Empire. He's more the administrative. He's more like the king as opposed to the high priest or the rabbi.
All right, I guess.
More an administrative position. He was a big shot.
But what happened to the benefactors and leaders of the state of Israel who weren't Jewish? This is so far away.
Well, because when I say the benefactors, we're talking about the Rothschilds. We're talking about the Warburgs. Okay. In fact, who was the one? You know the name of the rabbi that got the Rothschilds interested in funding the state of Israel, Palestine in those days? Do you remember his name?
No.
Rabbi Kalischer.
There's a name I can forget. He's, okay. Rabbi Kalischer.
Right, Rabbi Kalischer. Now, Rabbi Kalischer, he's a descendant of the Kalanimus family.
Just because of his name.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, Collins. Over the years, Kalish became Collins. And Collins, if you look at Fritz Springmeyer's book, they're one of the 13 bloodlines that control the world, the Collins family.
These are not super duper sources exactly.
We're just laying some groundwork. We're not hammering nails into coffins just yet.
Well, I want to add something. I was going to have a guest on tonight. Well, his name was Robert Morningstar. It doesn't matter. He sent me this vicious anti-Semitic. In short, they're using me and my material for all the wrong reasons. I'm not sure what you're doing here, to tell you the truth. But the fact is, when you dive into Shabtai Tzvi, you have to get it right. I don't think the people you're quoting or you're sourcing are getting it right. I think this is all made up.
You can think whatever you want to think. We're all muddling through all these history books and trying to make sense of it.
Well, the Jacob Frank stuff and the fact that Frankfurter is the Manhattan of Europe and all this, it all happened in the 18th century. They were all together and the world changed and for no good. And you can ask why and how did they know each other and how did the 5 Rothschild brothers go to 5 separate capitals and start the monetary system and stuff like that.
These guys are all extensions of the people who after the fall of the of Roman Gaul, Roman Empire, these guys came out from Narbonne. And then now these princes of Narbonne were princes for a couple of hundred years, and they had the sanction of Charlemagne and his ancestors. So what happened was after over the course of time, I mean, how do these guys become the royalty of Europe? They leave Narbonne, they get married. Some went down, they went into Spain. Some went up into France. Some went up into Germany, and they basically permeated Europe. So you have this clique, this family,
and yet they started.
And they're all Davidic. They're all Davidic. It's Davidic.
They put all the Jews, and they made them go through unspeakable, horrible tortures.
But they're not Jews. They're not Pharisees. They're Annanites.
Well, they think they're Catholics.
It's like Karaites, but if you Googled Annanite, you're not gonna learn that much about it. It's gonna bring it to Amnon ben David because no one has really discussed it. It's like 10 years ago. If you went to Shabbatai Tzvi, maybe you'd see 2 little posts on it. Now it's a whole world of information.
Because of Rabbi Marvin Antelman.
Exactly.
And he chose to be spokesman. I guess for 20 years he tried instilling this, and now I believe it, that Shabtai Tzvi was a hoax to demoralize Jews, and he did it by turning them utterly immoral. I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, I don't know where I'm...
Now, an interesting thing is this Anselmo del Banco, the patriarch of the Warburg and Rothschild family. If you look on the Rothschild family tree, you'll see now another one of Rothschild's 5 sons, Anselm. You'll see Anselm in his some son, a grandchild. Why is Anselm, which is like an Italian name, popping up in a Frankfurt Jewish family? Okay, the Rothschilds have Kalanimus in their family tree. He named one of his kids Anselm, one of them Kalman, who went by Karl, which is after Charlemagne. Just calm down a little bit. I spent the past 5 months researching this in many books and lots, and there's something here, whether you're interested in or not, but it's here.
Interested, but
it's something here that has been passed over and not understood. And I got to it. Actually, there's a book that came out, Tombstones of a Paduan Jewish cemetery. Why would I spend $65 on a book on tombstones in a Paduan Jewish cemetery? Because that's where Anselmo del Banco was buried. And I looked on his tombstone, and there were fleur-de-lis on there, which points to Charlemagne, and it also points to the King David, because that's how they anointed the kings. They would flavor the olive oil with the fragrance of lilies. Okay? So there was that, and also there was something. There were also pseudo Corinthian capitals, which was very unusual on tombstones of that day. What does it have to do with Greece? And then I came across the Kalonymus. Now, Kalonymus is a Greek name for Baal Shem Tov, a good or Shem Tov, good name. And that pointed towards this guy Makir, who they really didn't want to name by name because it was supposed to be muddled for history. No one wanted. You're not supposed to know that Anan ben David from Baghdad was the Makir of Nabon. That is a very big secret. If you look to the Holy Grail, Holy Blood books that are out there, and they all of the mysteries, they go in, they dig and they dig and they dig, and they get to the Makir of Nabon, and then everything kind of stops. It's like a roadblock. You can't get past it. But if you get past it, you see that this guy, Anan ben David, he's linked to the Sadducees, the Sadduki, which were actually the people. Your listeners, if they're Christian, will be interested because the
some are Jewish, but all of us are equally confused.
I understand. Well, the name of the high priest, who, according to the New Testament, who did Jesus in, was Ananus. The whole line of these people.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, and this has been disputed, was Judas,
right.
Yehuda, and this is actually coming out. There's actually a testament by Yehuda found in Egypt, and the story is apparently very contrived. And all right, what are you doing with all this?
I'm discussing it with you.
No, but where's it going?
Your show. Where's it going?
Be silly.
It's
where's
going.
It going?
Where it's going. It's very interesting. You know, are you aware of the Rothschild link to Hitler and Stalin?
Oh gosh Almighty!
If you're not, you're not. I'm talking to the wrong crowd. We could just cut it short, and you can go into the.
All right. What was the link?
You don't know?
Nope.
Okay. Well, just want to. Thank God for Google. Google Rothschild, Stalin, Rothschild, Hitler, and I'm not going to go into it now. We got 8 minutes. But anyway,
it's enough.
Let me ask, if you want to shoot somebody in the head, if I wanted to shoot somebody in the head, right? I have to go to Walmart, open up my wallet, and buy bullets. You can't kill anybody in this day and age unless you want to club them. Until you got to take money out of your pocket and buy bullets. So I don't want to get into where Hitler got his, who funded Hitler and all that, but just Google Hitler Rothschild, Hitler Stalin, things like that, and if you're interested, that's all. But
all right, I'm assuming. Now look, I know the Jews who left Germany.
Hitler wrote Mein Kampf with a Rothschild typewriter, for God's sakes.
Well, he was in prison at the time. I know that.
That's right. They brought the typewriter into his prison. Anyway, but we're getting off track.
The war effort was paid for by all the properties of Jews escaping Germany.
I understand. I get it. I got it.
All right.
Who set up the whole thing in the first place? The Treaty of Versailles and all that. Look, this is a whole nother ball of wax. What else did we want to talk about?
No, all right, let's go back to Shabtai Tzvi. It was a planned hoax designed to demoralize Jews. It certainly did that. Now, who planned it?
Okay. This group of people, these Ananites, which you're not going to be able to find on Google. We just have to discuss it and talk about it. The Karaites deny them. The Karaites don't want to really have anything to do with it. But Anand Ben David, if you look him up on Google, they'll say he was the founder of the Karaite movement. But the Karaite movement actually started a little time before he actually got off the ground. But it's basically that.
What's all right? I'm going to ask.
I'll leave you
Who
with one
funded
word.
Shabtai? Who got him worldwide? Look, my conclusion is the only organization that could go from Iran to Mexico and spread this among the Jews was the Vatican. I don't think there was anything in the 17th century.
Excuse me, but these Annanites,
Yes.
these Annanites came from the Tzadukis, and these people are also tied to that family that we're not supposed to talk about, the Piso family.
Why aren't we supposed to talk about them?
Because it would piss people off.
Well, you've done that, I'm sure. I mean, why would it piss them off?
Okay, me and you, we could talk about that the Torah was created by a bunch of people, and just before the Jews were, like at the time of Cyrus the Great in Babylon. Before that, it didn't exist. We can talk about that Moses didn't exist. It's all a figment of somebody's imagination.
Well,
but we can't talk about
exiles.
We're Jews. We could do that, but I don't like to talk about other people's religion and say that the founder of their religion.
What other people's religion
does not have a genuine historicity. Let's put it that way. But if
I think I know where you're going. You're saying whatever Piso wrote is going to really tick off my Christian listeners. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, but it didn't start with them. It's an old thing. This is going back to the Persians and the Babylonians. And basically, really quickly, why do people cook up religions for these people? It came when the first empires came. If you think about what an empire is, you take a whole bunch of people who don't know each other, they probably can't stand each other, a whole bunch of clans and tribes, and you envelop them in one empire, the first empire that ever happened, whether it's Assyria or Babylon, they were confronted with this problem. We have this whole bunch of people that we just threw a line around and a rope around and put a big umbrella over them, and they got to live with each other. What do? How do you get them to start loving each other and have a cohesive unity? That's a problem. That's the problem for the first emperor. And what they came up with was, you know what? Let the old ones die off. The young ones who don't know from nothing. You pull something out of the ground like the Mormon guy did in New York, upstate New York, this gold tablet, and say, oh my God, I found the Book of Mormon. They did that. They're still doing it today with that. But they did that 2,500 years ago to these generations that don't know nothing about nothing. And they said, you guys are all related.
To my friends,
all you tribes and clans, I found out there's a book of Moses, and you guys are all related. Isn't that amazing? And these guys go, yeah. And then one 95-year-old guy says, what? That's a bunch of crap. And you know what you do? You cut his head off. And you keep on cutting the heads off of these people, the people who know better, until you got nobody else who knows it.
Fascinating show. We'll have you back. I'm going to wait for
it's happened time and time again, but I'm not going to go into it because I'm a nice Jewish boy.
Yes, you are. Folks, this was Clifford Shack. Google him, read him, expand. And folks, this is very
Huh? Yeah. That is so. I don't want to. It's me. Yeah, it's his responsibility to look